The Amazing Spider-Man 2, that's right, my series of Spider-Man reviews has brought us here. Now, I've reviewed this film before, obviously when it came out a couple years ago, and this is one of those rare instances where my opinion has drastically changed. Usually when I see a film, it's like, yeah, that's how I feel. I know how I feel, and if there's a change, it's minute. You know, I mean, you go back and watch a movie, sometimes you appreciate something a little more, or maybe something drags because you've seen it before, but most of the time, I always know exactly how I feel when I see a film. And the first time I saw The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I said it was okay. I gave it a B-, and I said that I appreciated the fact that there wasn't another origin story. The fact that we didn't have to sit through Peter Parker and Uncle Ben and it gets shot and, oh, he got bit by a spider. Again, also, I do recall that when I first saw The Amazing Spider-Man 2, it was one of the first movies I saw after getting over a terrible flu virus that I had. So maybe in some weird way, I was in an incredible mood and more forgiving than I usually am, because upon rewatch, I really don't like this movie. The film opens again with Peter Parker's parents, and it's trying to make that story interesting. It's trying to give us something we haven't seen before. The untold story we were supposed to get in The Amazing Spider-Man, but actually didn't get. It was the exact same story again. It wasn't untold at all. It was the same thing again. Uncle Ben got shot, and it's terrible, and now he has powers. So we get a weird Bourne Identity ripoff fight scene in a plane taking place in the past, where they had current modern day Sony Vaio laptops that didn't exist when this scene took place. The suit in this film is better. That's the one thing I can definitely say is an improvement on the last one. The suit is like the comics. It doesn't look like a basketball anymore. It looks fantastic, amazing. The eyepieces are huge. It's all really great, visually appealing. But when we start out with Spider-Man, like, as high as he is, I just want to know how he got there. Is he falling from a plane? Skydiving? Did he attach himself to a helicopter? This is an issue with other Spider-Man posters. Almost every Spider-Man poster has him like soaring above the city like he can physically fly. How do you get up there? But this is the first time in a movie where you're just like, wait, is he falling through the clouds? So let's talk about Paul Giamatti. Wow. Jamie Foxx is also in this film, and he plays Electro. I don't mind him so much. You do feel some sympathy for him, but he's essentially the Riddler from Batman Forever. He obsesses over Spider-Man just like Jim Carrey obsessed over Batman. He has this strange office with pictures of Spider-Man everywhere. He talks to himself. He's this reclusive, nerdy scientist that no one else respects. It is almost like Joel Schumacher made this movie. It's actually scary. So the Rhino's going around causing all this destruction, and Spider-Man decides to hang around and tell some jokes instead of just stopping him. Look at what happens next. All of this destruction and chaos and possible life loss. That he could have just stopped if he wouldn't have told those quips that the fans wanted to hear so much that the screenwriters just were like, hey, we have to please the fans. Who cares about making a coherent film and portraying Spider-Man as a hero that saves lives? He wants to tell some jokes while causing a shit ton of destruction in his path along the way. This entire opening sequence is edited so poorly. It goes from Gwen giving this speech, she's the valedictorian, back to Rhino, back to Jamie Foxx, back to Spider-Man, and it's all of these clashing tones, and you realize that really the entire film is actually going to be like that. A bunch of tones everywhere, just clashing with each other, trying to make a coherent film in some way. And again, Gwen has no real reason to be here. She's just Gwen Stacy. What is her character? She doesn't have a character. She doesn't do anything. She's just Gwen Stacy. She's off and on with Peter. Peter's off and on with her. She's happy. She's sad. She goes from all of these highs and lows emotionally throughout the script and Emma Stone's performance to where all of a sudden at the end she's just like, hey, this is my life. This is my decision. And I'm going to help you with the Green Goblin problem. And you can't do anything about it.
I'm not messing around. You can't be here right now. This is insane.
Guess what? Nobody makes my decisions for me. All right? Nobody. This is my choice. Okay? My choice. This is mine.
I gotta say though, my favorite part of this film is this one little tiny scene where this kid's getting picked on and Spidey rescues him and fixes his little windmill that he made and just walks off with him. That's Spider-Man. That is Spider-Man. That scene is Spider-Man. They absolutely nailed that character, but it doesn't actually have much impact on the film, except later the kid comes back and stands in front of the rhino in the Spider-Man costume. And that's, I guess, where that scene comes into play. But that scene, for me, is the best part of this whole movie and a perfect capturing of the Spider-Man character. For whatever reason, they just couldn't continue that for the extremely bloated runtime of this film. Dane DeHaan, who I normally love, plays Harry Osborn in this film terribly. It's a lot of slow, methodical talking. My father's dead. He died from a disease that I now have. And this disease is going to kill me very soon, Peter. Despite the fact that my dad died after like 60 years. Just give me your blood, okay? This whole subplot with Harry Osborn with this disease. Norman Osborn has the same disease. It's passed on through hereditary genes. But for whatever reason, it took Norman Osborn a really long time to die. But Harry has, like, I don't know, like no time. He's dying, like right now. It makes no sense. It's just this terrible plot device to get Harry to want Spider-Man's blood to put inside of him to maybe combat against this disease because Peter's been infected with something along those lines because some kind of experiments with his dad because Oscorp, and there's a secret underground train that rises out from the subway when Peter finds the coins inside the calculator, and then inside the train there's a computer message that his father planned all of these years to just have underground, and he found the coins and it somehow worked. Who wrote this? What the fuck? Sony had to have gotten their nasty little hands in there and said, this is what we want. The Green Goblin in this movie isn't Dane DeHaan. It's Sony. Sony's the Green Goblin. They're in the corner. Spider-Man. We have you now, Spider-Man. Jamie Foxx as Electro is hilarious. When he turns into Electro, it repairs the gap in his teeth. Like, electricity goes zzz and fixes the gap. That is so dumb. The electricity repairs his teeth. The majority of this film is Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy walking around doing improvisational humor, maybe sort of making faces and scratching their noses and going, and then there'll be big bloated action scenes with tons of CGI and Hans Zimmer's very bad idea of a dubstep theme. I really don't know what happened there. It's my birthday, time to light my candles. But my favorite part of the entire scene where Electro attacks Times Square with electricity flying everywhere is the fact that throughout this entire scene, Gwen Stacy is grabbing a metal bar. She's just such a smart character. She has to be there. This is her life, Peter. I have to be here, Peter. I make my own decisions, Peter, because I'm Gwen Stacy. No, you're gonna fucking die because you just had to be there for some reason. Now, I've been on YouTube for like a long time, almost 10 years. 7 years on this stuff that I'm doing now, but before that I had other channels as well. So I know how YouTube works. That's why when they show this guy who has a YouTube video, he has 2 subscribers, 257,000 views, and 92 likes. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Unless he paid for views. Which, by the way, side point, don't buy views. You have to be a moron to not be able to tell when someone buys views. They have like 50 comments on their video and 500,000 views. I wonder if they bought fake views. The other thing about The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is that it constantly tries to set up the Sinister Six. There are so many references to it, and it's sad rewatching it now knowing that that's not going to happen because it just feels like a giant set-up trailer movie that doesn't have a story of its own and just exists to bring these villains together and hopefully make more. But they did such a shitty job making this film interesting that no one wants more. Even people who were fans of Andrew Garfield and his portrayal were like, you gotta do better than that, guys. I mean, there are so many things I'm not even mentioning, like the fact that when Harry turns into the Green Goblin, he can just instantly fly his glider. He has no training, he has no idea what he's doing, really, but apparently he does. He's perfect at it. In the first Spider-Man film, Norman was one of the people that designed that glider, so it makes sense that he could fly it perfectly. Or Peter talking to Gwen across this giant space with electricity flying everywhere, and you can just hear him fine through this bunker glass window. It's so bad. And did I mention that Electro plays a song? He plays the Itsy Bitsy Spider song with electricity. So like I said earlier, Gwen dies because she just had to show up to the big showdown with lightning monsters and genetically altered spider people. It'd be like me just walking into a war zone because it's my choice to be there. With no military training, no weaponry, just me, just walking into a war zone with mines and explosions and gunfire. Of course I'm gonna die. It just doesn't make you feel for her character at all. She's supposed to be so smart. She's the valedictorian of her entire school, yet she's grabbing metal bars when electricity's flying everywhere, and she's showing up to the giant big showdown with superhero people because she just wants to be there, I guess. Of course she's gonna die. This is what these two Amazing Spider-Man films have done. The first one was like, hey look, we have to appeal to all the people who didn't like Raimi's. All the haters of Raimi's films, we have to appeal to them. So he has to tell more jokes, he has to have web shooters, and he has to be like super smart and create all kinds of stuff, even though he has no money. The second film is like, hey, people didn't like how Mary Jane was a damsel in distress, so we'll make Gwen Stacy just, she'll do everything. She'll always show up by her own will. It's just they're trying to do whatever's different from the first Raimi films, and I understand why they would feel that way. They want to appeal to the haters of those films, even though those have seriously diminished over the years because of how shitty these two films were. The simple fact is, though, they don't tell a cohesive story. It doesn't make sense. They're just trying to appeal to a demographic. They're just trying to appease certain people. They're not trying to make a great film. That's it. Gwen Stacy dies, the movie ends, Green Goblin is in a prison, and he's like, it comes and goes. His disease apparently just went away for a while and then came back, and he can control it now. I don't know. And there's the guy in the hat walking around, Vulture's wings and Doc Ock's arms, things we all saw in the trailers. And the final shot, which we all saw in the trailers, Giamatti is so bad here. I mean, laughably bad. The movie ends, and it's 142 minutes long, which is really long for this film, and that's without deleted scenes. And there's a lot of deleted scenes, including an entire other character played by Shailene Woodley. Shailene Woodley was going to be in this film as Mary Jane Watson, and they completely removed her. She's not even in the deleted scenes. This movie was a clusterfuck, man. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is really bad. The only thing that saves it is a couple scenes with Spider-Man. Really. I have no idea what they were thinking. I'm going to give this film a D. Those are my thoughts on the Spider-Man films. I loved Spider-Man and Civil War. I think they really nailed the character. I can't wait for Homecoming. Guys, what are your thoughts on the Spider-Man films? Which ones do you love? Which ones do you hate? Thank you so much, as always, for watching. And if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.